Welcome to another episode of Out from the Horrorbox. Today's episode, we're going to go over some news and maybe a little bit more. Hopefully, this past Sunday had filled you with some good spooks and haunts, and you got to trick or treat. This past Sunday was Halloween, so we're just getting over that. And man, I still can't believe Halloween's already done. It's another year done, and it just sucks because I wish Halloween was. I mean, inside Halloween's all year round, but I mean, I hate to see like everything get taken down and everyone just go back to normal and not be all spooky anymore. But we got to go on, especially in these times. We got to move on with ourselves in this horrible, horrible world with our escapism on horror. And as we see everything progress more and more towards looking like the purge. So sit back, relax, and let's get into some news.
This is the fucking news. This is the fucking news. This is the fucking news. This is the fucking news.
For anyone who grew up in the late 80s, 90s, and then early 2000s, as a kid, you knew the name R.L. Stine. And with R.L. Stine, who, much like Stephen King, never stops writing and keeps churning out novel and after novel, R.L. Stine is going to be releasing a collection of new horror stories called Stinetinglers. So, Entertainment Weekly has announced Stinetinglers today, an upcoming book that's packed with all new stories by the master of scary tales. 10 of them, in fact. So, from the preview, the new stories include tales about a boy who hates bugs and starts to see them everywhere, a basketball player whose skin starts to practically drip off his hands and no one else can see it, and three friends who discover a hole in the ground that only continues to grow. The site also notes that each of the scary stories are introduced by Stine himself. Ooh, kind of reminds me of, and Goosebumps, I mean, you can watch it right now on Netflix. I'm not sponsored. But there's episodes where R.L. Stine would introduce the story. They were like more like specials. He did that for like The Haunted Mask, and then The Haunted Mask 2, A Night in Terror Tower, and then a couple others. I don't remember the other ones that he did it for, but I really find that interesting, like him, like in the book, saying like, "This is R.L. Stine," and then he's probably gonna give some kooky like sign off, or I don't know, like something. He'll say something funny because it's jovial Bob. That's that's R.L. Stine. I mean, if you know anything about R.L. Stine, you know that he used to write like a lot of like funny stories and like kids like that's why a lot of his stories have like these twists that are like well what I mean, like they're just kind of like ha 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 ha, or like, well, who, that's what they get, you know so hopefully these will be pretty good. I mean, I know they're not written for adults, but I mean adults can still enjoy R.L. Stine stories, I think. I know that like he had another show after Goosebumps that was based on another series that he wrote, The Haunting Hour, and that was a pretty good show. It was kind of like the Twilight Zone, I guess. No, well, it's kind of like Goosebumps, kind of. I don't know, but I think it was a little bit more adult or more geared towards like teenagers because those didn't have any of like the. They did have twist endings, but it was more like dark, so, or like more like a comeuppance type of thing, rather than like the way that Goosebumps did it, where it was like it was like, oh, it's kind of like set up like haha, like that's the twist. Like, but it's supposed to be kind of funny. I think it's pretty cool. I mean, I love that he's still writing and he didn't stop. That he found his niche, he knew what to do, and he just kept writing for this all this time. So I can't wait for that. I mean, and then we just got Fear Street, so I think we're having like a. I think because we had that Stephen King renaissance, that's still going. I think we're getting an R.L. Stine renaissance because we're getting that. I think on Disney Plus, they have a new show called Just Beyond. I started watching that, and that I think that's R.L. Stein as well. So I mean, anything more like that has to do with like R.L. Stein or like spooky stuff for kids. I still enjoy it. I think it's still pretty good. I think it's fun. I know I watched the first two episodes of that Just Beyond, and you know what? It's pretty good. It's not. I will say I did like the Haunting Hour a little bit better, but I mean I haven't watched the whole thing. Maybe there are some episodes that stick out a little bit better. So I mean that'll just be in time. So we'll find out. Moving right along, it looks like Gail Garcia Bernal will star in Marvel's werewolf themed Halloween special for Disney Plus. Over the summer, Disney Plus, Walt Disney, and Marvel, they announced for Disney Plus that next year, next Halloween, so a year from now, they're going to be adapting the I guess the Marvel comic. I guess it's called Werewolf by Night. Though I guess that still hasn't been confirmed. I mean, the only update that we have is that the actor Gail Garcia Bernal, he's recently in Old, that he's going to be starring in it. So I guess Werewolf by Night is more of a nickname for two different Marvel characters. First, it's Jack Russell back in the early 70s, or in the 70s, and more recently, new character Jack Gomez. So, this is from Wikipedia. Jack Russell is a descendant of the mystically altered offshoot of humans known as lycanthropes. During the night of the full moon and the 2 nights surrounding it, he is forced to mutate until a werewolf, a large, powerful form which is a hybrid of human and wolf, and loses his human intellect. Through a series of events, he is capable of mutating voluntarily outside of the full moon, at which time he remains in control. Ooh. Oh, notably, issue number 32 of The Werewolf by Night comic features the first appearance by Moon Knight, which they are bringing into their own series on Disney Plus, and that's going to be played by Oscar Isaacs. So I wonder if maybe they're not saying specifically what it is, because maybe it might be like a crossover for Moon Knight or something, or maybe it's like a Moon Knight Halloween special or something. I mean, we can sit here and speculate all we want, right? But it's kind of interesting that like that's where he was first introduced. I mean, I'm not saying that could be the first episode, but maybe they could do something like with WandaVision where it was like, oh, like the Halloween episode. Honestly, like I like that idea. I think that would be pretty cool. And Marvel has been doing a lot of great stuff on like Disney Plus so far. I mean, WandaVision was amazing. Loki was awesome. Falcon and Winter Soldier was a little, but I mean, I liked it. Was still good. It was just there's parts that I was like, eh. But Hawkeye looks amazing. I can't wait for She-Hulk, and then Moon Knight, and whatever else they're gonna do with this is gonna be pretty good. I think I can't wait. I mean, that's just awesome that they're gonna do like something for Marvel for Halloween. I mean, we've already seen like I said the Halloween episode of like WandaVision, but that was more of like a sitcom, like ha 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 funny Halloween. But this could be something that they take. I mean, I know Disney Plus is not going to go full R with this, but it could be something that's like they're pushing it a little bit further, and if it ties into Moon Knight, I mean, might be pretty good. So we'll have to wait and see for that. Just recently, a featurette for Scream 5 was revealed, and it shows some unseen footage and some other stuff. The new video features replays some of the trailer footage, but extends a few of the moments to cue in some surprises yet unseen. One thing, looks like Sydney may now be a mother as she's out on a daytime run. We steal a momentary glimpse of Sydney pushing a stroller along. So maybe she has a kid in this one. Not sure. Maybe that could be one way of like keeping her around, but like not having her as involved as much like in the future. Because I already know they're probably going to do another one. Another interesting tidbit seen in the new video kind of relates to the new character Mindy. So it says that for actor Jasmine Savoy Brown, List 7 is playing a character named Mindy Meeks Martin. So that sounds familiar. It's because of the legacy character Randy Meeks. And this isn't the first time we've seen a relative of Randy. His sister appeared in the third Scream, and she was played by Heather Matarazzo. So, presumably, she's probably related to him through her. I mean, who knows? We'll find out with the new film. The new film follows a young woman returning to her hometown, which is plagued by, obviously, it's Sydney, the town's being plagued by the same murders as before, by Ghostface, and it's just replaying itself. But now, all the people who are being affected by it are related to the people from the first three, or first four, I guess. And they're trying to do something with Sydney. That's why she's having to come back. And one thing I like that this little featurette showed is that Kevin Williamson's coming back. He was the one who originally wrote the original screenplay. He wrote the second one, and he wrote, I think, the fourth one. He just didn't write the third one. He was really busy at that time, so he couldn't write it. But he's back on here, but he's in the role of executive producer. The little featurette, I would say, go watch if you're a huge Scream fan. This movie is just getting me every time. Anything about it keeps coming out, just keeps getting me pumped and hyped more and more, just because I'm like, yes, this looks so good. I think doing another Scream, I know it's sad to say because Wes Craven passed, R.I.P. But I think they're keeping it in such a way that it is still true to like his vision and like his ideas. I mean, you're bringing everybody back, but I do like that they're trying to pass it on to a new group of people, not just trying to move on from just Sydney and the rest of them, because I mean at some point they're not going to be around. And I think there's going to be a point where it's going to be just ridiculous. I think it works with Jamie Lee Curtis because she only came back twice after the first two films, and the first time she came back was for like a special, like 20 years later. And this new one, it's like, okay, it was another like 40 years, and it was more of a way to just cap off the series. So I think that's why that worked. So hopefully this will be pretty good. I want to see it. And if it does set up for another one or more to come, then hey, more horror films we get, right? So Shudder announced their first terrifying game. So AMC and Shudder, they've done a great job, scaring us with film and TV over the past couple of years. So now they've set their sights on gaming. And this first game that they've set their sights on producing is called The Fabulous Fear Machine. It's a game that puts you in the role of the master of the machine, with the job of spreading fear throughout the world by means of urban legends and other terrifying bits that make the mind twitch. The synopsis for The Fabulous Fear Machine goes like this. AMC Games and Shudder present The Fabulous Fear Machine, a narrative-driven strategy game with a pulp horror style from the creators of Do Not Feed the Monkeys. You play a newly minted master of the machine, having been called to greatness by its mysterious keeper. You must generate and spread fear through the careful cultivation of various legends, those scary stories, urban myths, and conspiracy theories that lurk in the dark corners of the mind. So some of the features include horror evolved. Plant the seeds of fear in fertile ground. Watch and listen to how the media reacts to your legends. Feed them and then see them grow more powerful and effective. The job done right. Your strength is in strategizing. Leave the dirty work to your agents. Send them to explore new locations and infiltrate your enemies, making interesting choices along the way. An equal and opposite reaction. Rivals and the forces of good alike seek to undo the machine's influence for their own ends. Plan accordingly, or you may find your own legends twisted into inspirational stories, mascots, or other sugary sweet cliches. Think globally, scare locally. Many legends are drawn from the unique cultural history of specific countries. Travel the world and learn what terrors each populace delights in. A tale as old as time. Across one playthrough, you'll direct the stories of several masters operating in different regions of the world. Along the way, explore the history of the machine, its enemies, and the agents who aid you. So, looks like the Fabulous Fear Machine arrives to terrify the world, beginning in early 2022. There's no official date yet, but hopefully this is pretty good, you know. I mean, I can't wait to see what, like, uh, you know, this channel that produces nothing but horror and horror related content has, I mean, like, what could go, I mean, a lot of things could go wrong, but I mean, I feel like this could be a pretty good game. I mean, so many other things have turned into like Friday the 13th. That is pretty good, you know. And I mean, so many other things have been turned into like tabletop games, board games, stuff like that. So, who knows? I mean, this could be pretty good. I mean, I can't wait to try and play this. Sounds pretty good. I mean, it sounds like something that I'd like to play. And I mean, I just watched the little. They have like a trailer for the game, and it looks pretty good. If they're going with that art style, it looks amazing. I can't wait to. Like I said, I can't wait to play this. It looks pretty good. Like I said, if it's anything like the way that the trailer portrays it, can't wait. Can't wait till 2022. So one thing I like to do with my family is play tabletop games. So if you're not really into this, you can go ahead and skip to the last segment on this episode. But I'm going to be talking about a board game, tabletop game that me and my brother and sister like to play. So it's called Horrified. And what it's about is um, imagine living in a place so wretched that it's not plagued by one, two, or even three monsters, but seven of the most horrifying fiends. In this game, you'll come face to face with them all as you work together to rid the town of the maniacal or misunderstood creatures before it's too late. Horrified includes high quality sculpted miniatures, Frankenstein, the Bride of Frankenstein, the Wolfman, Dracula, the Mummy, the Invisible Man, and the creature from the Black Lagoon. It's innovative, easy to learn cooperative gameplay has players working together against the monsters with varying levels of difficulty. Just as each monster is unique, they require different strategies and tactics to be defeated. So that's just a little description from the publisher. So yeah, so like I said, so what you do is you and your party, you pick a character. The characters are kind of just random characters. They each have, some of them have their own like individual things that you can do, like move another character or pick up some items or whatever. But the main crux of this is that Horrified is themed with all the Universal monsters. Well, most of them. So they got, like I said, Dracula, Wolfman, Mummy, whatever. This was one that I thought, oh, cool, we can play for Halloween. We can get in that ooky spooky spirit, and we can, it's awesome. But then my sister, she texted me out of nowhere and told me that she had just bought this other game was called Horrified American Monsters. So, from the same makers, people who did Horrified, they decided to give us a second game for this. So this one is based off of all the American monsters. So from the official site, Horrified American Monsters is a standalone game that features gameplay similar to 2019's Horrified, which challenges players to overcome the universal monsters from classic films. In this cooperative game, you face off against classic American nightmarish beasts: Bigfoot, Mothman, the Jersey Devil, the Chupacabra, the Banshee of the Badlands, and the Ozark Howler. The more creatures in the game, the harder the challenge, with players needing to use their unique powers to find out how to defeat each monster. And yeah, it has a lot of the same mechanics. Like the characters are just kind of whatever, they're just there. They're like the townspeople of this American city. And what I like is that they chose to use like these, you know, cryptids, these monsters that you don't really usually see. And I mean, you do see them now, but you didn't see them back then. Obviously, that's what made the first Horrified game pretty cool, is that they had all the universal monsters, but this one has all the like cryptids that you see out there from America. You know, Mothman, which I love, and Chupacabra. And there's even, I've never heard of the Banshee of the Badlands or the Ozark Howler, but I love their design and everything. So we've only played it once. We played against Mothman and we played against Chupacabra. So the way that the game works is it starts off with the player's turn, and then they get a set number of actions that they can do, and then the next is like the monster's turn. And the monsters have cards that tell you what to do. There's also townspeople that can be put onto the board if they're attacked by any of the monsters. You have this little scale that once it gets to, I think it's like you only get like 7 turns. Not 7 turns, but 7, like, I forgot what they're called. There's a little skull at the end, though. So when you get down to that, that's when the game ends. Or if you go through all the cards, the game ends. All the monster cards. But yeah, so each time you're trying to figure out everything while trying to maneuver across the board. But then you're also trying to strategize with everyone else. Like, hey, if you do this on your turn, then I can do that. And then you're also trying to figure out like how to kill the monsters. But then the monsters get their own turns, and then they get their own sets of like abilities and things. And sometimes it's really hard. Sometimes it can be like so challenging that like everyone, you just end up dying and you just lose. And the good thing, what I love about this game is that, or both of these games, if you want, you can play by yourself. And I know that sounds like, why would you want to play by yourself? But I mean, it's just kind of fun too sometimes, because the little meter starts like half, or like 3 in, and you only have like a set number of things to do, but you're trying to beat these monsters by yourself, and it's kind of difficult because it's a co-op game. Like you have to be working with someone. I mean, you don't have to be because it's a single player as well, but it just makes it a lot easier when there's more people. The more people, the easier it is to kill the monsters. And yeah, I mean, honestly, they're both really good games. They're both sold at, I think, Target, and I know Best Buy. I know you can get on Amazon. I know my sister bought the one for Horrified. It was on like cheap like sale. Like she got a great deal for it. It was like 20% off, and then another 20. Basically, she got like 50% off on it from Target. So that was like a great deal. I'm not sponsored by them, by the way. But yeah, like I said, I mean, just like the board itself looks amazing. Like Google it. Like Google all the pieces. The pieces to this are amazing. The little miniatures for the monsters. Like for the first board game, the Universal Monster one, like the art's pretty okay. The board looks pretty okay. Like the monsters look like the monsters. The little figures are pretty okay. They're just standard, like what you think they would be. But I will say, if you get Horrified American monsters, it's like a whole nother, like they stepped it up for this. Like the art style is a little bit better. Like I said, the colors are amazing. They use like it's like saturated perfectly. The little figures too are cool. Like Mothman's character is amazing. I like his little character. Um, and it plays pretty good. It was so funny because like we're playing and my mom's like sitting there like watching. I forgot what she was watching. She was like watching something completely different on the TV, but she's sitting at the table while we're playing, and she just like after a while got so invested in our game and was like, wait, what just happened? Like as if it was like a real video game that was going like wait, how did that happen? And oh so what did he get to do? Like go back, tell me what happened. Like she got so invested because you can really get super invested in this game. It's really easy and honestly I would say 100% go out and get this game. It's I love the horror theming to it. It's amazing. I love that like this is what I wish like for the because I when I played the first one I was trying to think like how can you add to it because with the first one you get the Invisible Man, you get Dracula, you get the Mummy, Wolfman, both Frankenstein and his wife, and Creature from the Black Lagoon, and there's only so much like you can do after a while with them. And I was like, who else can you add to this, right? Like the Phantom of the Opera because they were doing Universal Monsters or like I don't even know. Like maybe one of the like Martian things that they always have as part of the Universal Monsters. But I was like, what else can you do? And I was thinking like, what else can you do? And this is like perfect because obviously they're not going to get like the rights to anything else like slasher wise. Like you can't get like a Freddy Krueger or a Jason. I mean, you could do they could do their own call them all different names, but they're just basically that. But like the what's it called, Dead by Dawn? Is that what the game is? That they basically had like the stand-ins for those characters, but that's what they were supposed to be those characters. Honestly, though, if you do love board games or tabletop games, any type of those like games where you gotta like work together with your friends and you want something to do with them, especially if you're into horror, like I would say 100% get get either one. If you honestly, you don't have to start with the first Horrified with the Universal Monsters if you're not into that. If you want to get straight into like all the cryptids from America, get into it. I can't wait to see what they do for the next one. Honestly, like that was such a like out of the box thinking that I honestly did not even think that they would do that. So yeah, go pick it up. I can't believe I spent so much time like talking about it, but it's like such a great game, and I would give it probably like 4 out of 5 stars. Amazing game. Time for something a little bit spooky, guys. So I want to read a list of creepy stories that people shared about their families. Number one, this terrifying carnival experience. My grandfather grew up in rural Kansas. When I was growing up, he always refused to go on the rides at the theme parks and carnivals, and I never knew why. When I got older, my mom finally told me that when my grandpa was at a county fair as a young boy, he was standing in line for the swing ride. There was a young girl on the ride, and as the swings hit full speed, the chains on her seat snapped and she went flying. She was flung hundreds of feet and was decapitated when she hit a tree branch. He saw the whole thing happen and never went on another ride for the rest of his life. I can't say I blame him. Damn. Just imagine being like a little kid and seeing something like that. Crazy. Number two, this death day curse. Ever since my mom's death in 2007, the date she passed, November 25th, has been cursed for my family. On November 25th, 2008, my granddad had a heart attack. On November 25th, 2009, my dad had an aneurysm. On November 25th, 2010, my grandma found out she had kidney stones. This list goes on. Basically, every single year since then, there's been something. Which is kind of messed up because that is my mom's birthday, the 25th of November. Number three, this child's laughter. My very non dramatic, pragmatic grandmother used to hear children laughing when she logically shouldn't have. She'd hear this when she was home alone, without kids around, on buses by herself, at work with all adults everywhere. This began happening when my mother was a teenager, so when my grandmother was around 40. Then my equally non dramatic, pragmatic mother said that she also began hearing the same thing at the same point in her life. I swear, I'm 3 years away from 40. I'm just waiting to hear them any day now. Ooh, that's creepy. Number 4. This actual nightmare. My family has passed down the terrifying true story of how my great 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 grandma was buried alive. They found out when plots in her cemetery were being moved around years after her death. And when they opened hers, they found claw marks on the inside. According to everyone, she was also vocally afraid of being buried alive throughout her life, which makes the story even creepier. Oh yeah, that'd be terrible to be buried alive. Ugh. Number 5. This inexplicable prediction. When my great grandfather died, my great grandmother had her name preemptively added to his tombstone. However, they also added the year of her death as 195, leaving a blank spot for the specific year. My grandpa, her son, was furious that they assumed his mother would die in the 50s, but she ended up dying in late December 1959. Ooh, that's kind of. Number 6. This Ouija board. No. One story my parents used to tell me was about my older cousin's birthday when someone was dumb enough to buy him a Ouija board. Here's what happened. All the kids would gather around the table. "What's your name?" my cousin asked. No response. My other cousin got more aggressive and said, "If you're not a coward, then spell your name." All of a sudden, 4 letters pop up. Zozo. Everyone was scared out of their mind. And to make it even better, all the pictures on the mantle suddenly fell off. Needless to say, no one in the extended family is allowed to use a Ouija board now. Number 7. The Switch lineage. A maternal ancestor of mine, one Alice Lake, was hanged as a witch in Salem, Massachusetts, about 50 years before the infamous witch trials even began. According to our family legend, this was because she truly was a witch, and her power survived in her children, who have passed it down the line to us. Okay, that one wasn't that creepy. Number 8. This haunted home. According to my mom and her sisters, they lived in a haunted house in Northern California while they were growing up, and they all had creepy experiences in it. The creepiest story they tell is that one night when there was a storm and a power outage, my aunt went downstairs where her bedroom was to get matches. She couldn't see anything, but then suddenly a small light lit up the room. She turned around and saw an old woman in the reflection of her vanity mirror holding a candle to help her see. Now that's scary. Number 9. This teen terror. My dad and my aunt always tell us the story about 2 elderly witches who were sisters and lived together in a creepy house near theirs in Indiana. The women would chase my dad and my aunt when they were teens in a pickup truck with a shotgun. One time, one of the women even jumped on the hood of their car as they were driving down by the house. While I'm not sure how witchy those 2 women actually were, the house itself sure was creepy, since my dad and my aunt would drive us by as kids while they told us the tale. Yeah, creepy. Number 10. This odd death. Well, this may not be creepy in a traditional sense. It's a really weird family story. Basically, my great-grandpa served in World War II, but the circumstances surrounding his death were incredibly suspicious. They found his body abandoned in a burned car with his uniform missing, and then later another dead soldier was found with my great-grandpa's uniform and all of his documents like his passport and ID. Also, my great-grandma wasn't allowed to see his body, and they hardly answered any questions she had about his death. To this day, my family believes that my great-grandpa was very likely a spy, which is kind of cool. Number 11. This strange disappearance. According to my family, my great-great-great-great-grandfather decided to travel from his home in Utah to visit his daughter in Nevada. His horse and buggy returned to town just fine, without him. They found his bones the next summer, and it's largely suspected he was murdered by the people in town because he wouldn't give up the water rights on his property. Damn, that's messed up. Number 12. This mysterious demise. My family has a lot of creepy stories about people accidentally dying under very odd circumstances. The two that stick out the most for me are when my great-great-grandma was smoking a cigarette and accidentally lit her bathrobe, and then herself on fire, thus killing herself. And when my great-great-great-grandpa fell off his tractor and it ran over him, killing him instantly. Ugh. Horrible. Number 13. A holiday tragedy. One Christmas morning, my great-grandfather went outside to get water from the well and never came back. When my great-grandmother went out to investigate, she saw his hat resting solemnly on the rim of the well. She slowly peered over the edge of the well and was greeted with his shadowy, lifeless form at the bottom of the chasm. Was he pushed? Did he trip? Did he jump? No one knows. It's often argued about at family reunions, with the main point of contention being why his hat was placed so perfectly on the rim. Yeah, see, stuff like that, like, I think is the creepiest, because it's like, yeah, like, why was his hat just, like, placed like that? I mean, why was his hat? Why was his hat? No, I mean, not to make light of, like, someone dying, but, like, it's just so weird, because it's like, yeah, like, okay, if he jumped in, like, why did he take off his hat and place it there? Or if he was pushed, like, did he, like, leave the hat there before they pushed him? It's, yeah, see, things like that where it's like, what were they doing right before, and, like, we'll never know. It's just, things like that always, like, they don't creep me out, but it's just like, I just want to know. I want to know so bad. That's what, I think, things that are unsolved, like stories like this, just makes it so much like, like, I just want to know so bad, like, I don't know. I know there's people out there who completely agree with me. Like, I think this what makes true crime so good too, because it's not just about like why they're doing it or what they're doing it for, or like the psychology, but also sometimes like there's that mystery of like why did they do that? Like what led up to that? Like what actually happened? So I don't know. All right, well, that wraps up this episode of Out from the Horror Box. Thank you guys for listening. If you listened to the whole thing, hopefully you did. Hopefully, or you, I mean, if you like to jump around and listen to different things on here, I'm okay with that too. But if you do like the show, please subscribe, like, follow on Instagram. You can DM me there if you have anything you want me to review, if there's any news you got for me, if there's anything you want me to listen to, you want me to watch, yeah, so it's at Horrorbox Podcast, and like I said, you can hit me up on there, or if you'd like, you can also reach out to me on email horrorboxpodcast@gmail.com. I'm always up to getting anything from you guys. If you want to send me like your personal stories, anything you wrote, anything that you want me to review, you want me to look at, you want me to talk about, if there's any news, you can always email me there. Hit me up. I'm always open for more feedback, for more things to look at, and more things to review, more things to talk about. Yeah, so if you like this episode, like I said, like, subscribe, follow wherever you can, and even though Halloween's over, guys, for another year, we can't let that be the end of the spookies. Okay, guys? We gotta keep celebrating spooky and horror and hauntings and creepy and cryptids and all the monsters and all that. We gotta keep doing it all year round, because Halloween's not just a holiday, it's not just a season, it's in our hearts all year round. It's that thing that makes us tick. It's the thing that makes everyone feel like, a little bit, like, ooh, we gotta stay in for the night and make some popcorn and lock all the doors and bolt all the windows and turn off the lights and, just watch something scary. But you can do that all year round, especially during this time of the season. I think it bleeds through. into the holidays, especially into Christmas. There's a lot of horror for Christmas, so I'm not gonna quit. I'm not gonna stop until you guys make me. So, till next time, guys, we'll see what comes out from the horror box.